Welcome to Lesson 29, Weight Loss and Grief, Understanding the Emotional Connection. Now, you might be wondering, what does grief have to do with weight loss? What does grief have to do with health? What does grief have to do with going on this weight loss journey to achieve our goal weight? I didn't understand grief very much until this past year when somebody who I used to be close to passed away. And yet I understood a little bit about grief because of relationship changes in the past, people coming and going out of my life, and the void that that would leave in my life, and the sadness of saying goodbye to people. But the grief related to weight loss was different for me. So this kind of a grief when we are losing weight can relate to a lot of different things. It can relate to the people in our life that might not be in our life in the future. It can relate to our identity and what we've been known for, such as being a baker. It can relate to the things that we got used to doing when we were overweight and when we are obese, and then having to say goodbye to those things, because some of those things we might have actually liked doing. And there's another type of grief where you have this identity change and you have this mindset change, and you actually have to grieve and say goodbye to that. So there's several things that I wanted to talk about in this lesson about grief. So number one, it's okay to grieve. We're giving up certain foods that we used to eat all the time, such as on holidays. This is not a small issue, especially if holidays and celebrations and birthdays and anniversaries and the holidays of the year are significant in your life. This isn't small, and it's okay to admit this sucks. This isn't really fun to have to give up certain foods. Ideally, we don't have to give up anything, and we just have a very, very, very tiny amount of them. We space them out in our meal times, not snack times, but still, there's going to be times when what you used to do, you're not going to be doing anymore. And you have to say goodbye to that, and you have to grieve it, and it's okay to grieve. So just realize it's okay to grieve that. It's okay to admit, this sucks. I don't like this, and I'm sad about it. So it's okay to grieve, to lose your identity as a baker. And I'm sure there's a lot of you out there that love to bake, and you didn't look at the ingredients. You just followed the recipe, and at the end you have this wonderful cake, or this wonderful pan of brownies, or this batch of cookies, or this pie. All of these things that were in the baking category, and you were known for that, or you just enjoyed eating it yourself. And to realize that that's not going to be your future, because that, what you did in the past, gave you the body that you had in the past. And so to have a different body, to have a different level of health, you have to change. I had to change. And that was identifying that being a baker, that identity, something that I was known for, I had to leave it behind. It's not saying I'll never bake again, but it's saying that the identity that people knew me for because I did it so much, that's not my identity anymore. And that was hard. That was really, really hard to give that up. So it's okay also to grieve losing friends who don't support your health goals. This is very hard, especially if they're close friends, family friends, maybe people you went out to drinks with, or to meals with, or to dinners with, or on vacation with. And if those people are not helping you reach your goals, you have to make a decision. And you might have to cross that bridge, say goodbye to some people, and say, this is what I want for my health. Because you are the most important person in your life. And you have to make this decision for yourself, what you want to do. And if saying goodbye to certain people or having them just a little bit less in your life, that might be the best thing. And you're going to have to grieve that because they were a part of your life. They were a big part of your life, or that group or that club was a big part of your life. And you're going to have to say goodbye and grieve. And it's okay to grieve. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to get the Kleenex box out and cry. It's really okay to do that. But to admit that this is hard, that's where we can allow our emotions to show it's okay. On our list here, number 4, think of things you are needing to give up to lose weight. So this can be things in our life, like I've talked about in terms of the act of baking, that is a thing, or physical things, maybe giving up those clothes that fit you and you'd spent a lot of money on, and they were a size +2 or extra, extra, extra large, and you have to say goodbye to those clothes. but you will be getting different clothes. You will get smaller clothes. You will feel better in those clothes. So giving those up, you can grieve it. It's okay to grieve and to say those things I'm not going to have in my life anymore. And I'm sad about it. And that's okay. As I've mentioned before, journaling. Journaling is really important in order for us to process our feelings, process our thoughts, get them out of our head, stop mulling over them, and put them on paper, put them on an app, somehow get them out of our bodies, and it helps free us a little bit more and helps with the grieving process. This is very key. Number 6, create a gratitude list when you're feeling discouraged. And in our next lesson, I have a bonus for you related to gratitude journaling. This is just an idea to start thinking about that it helps to go through the grieving process when we can see things that are positive in the middle of it. So for me, when I was giving up baking, I had to learn to bake with almond flour or with nut butter and that kind of a thing instead of with the grains and with the flours and with the oatmeal and those foods that I have been used to using. And so I had to be thankful that there was another option. 15, 20 years ago, we didn't have the option of almond flour, and now we do. And it doesn't taste exactly the same. And I still have to limit it because if it tastes close to the same, then I'm tempted to eat it because it reminds me of something in the past where if it tastes too much like a chocolate chip cookie, I'm going to overeat it, even if it's made out of almond flour. So I can be thankful that almond flour exists and it's not too hard to come by. It's a little bit more expensive than regular flour, but at least it's available. So I can be thankful for that. So I'm giving up the regular flour that I used to use all the time to bake things with, but I can be thankful for the almond flour. So this is just a tiny example of where when you're grieving, when you're saying goodbye to something, is there something that you can look at and say, well, I'm thankful that this is here as I move forward. There's something to be thankful for in the middle of the grief. So this was just a short lesson just to identify the fact that it's okay to grieve. We need to identify why we're feeling sad and let's write it down. Let's think of other things that are positive that we can be thankful for and move forward from there. So I hope that that helps. Get some Kleenex, cry it out if you need to, and it's okay to grieve. So in our next lesson, we're going to talk about waiting for weight to come off our bodies. It's called the waiting game. So looking forward to seeing you in the next lesson.